Hello and welcome to ThePrint. I'm Risha Chitlangya, and in this special discussion today, we will talk about the challenges in making the metro system in India a success. So while the NDA government is pushing for a major expansion of metro network across the country, the biggest issue right now in almost all operational networks is that of low ridership. To discuss this, I am joined by Professor G Raghuram. He's a former director of IIM-Bangalore and a visiting faculty at the Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. He's an expert on infrastructure and transport systems. I'm also joined by Aswathy Dilip. She's the managing director of Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, India. Welcome you both.
Thank you, Risha. Pleasure.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. So I would like to start with you first. In the in the third term of NDA government, they have sanctioned projects worth 90,000 crore. Since January till now, almost 1 lakh crore metro projects worth 1 lakh crore have been sanctioned. So, how do you see this rapid expansion of metro network in the country? Is it financially viable in the long run?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I think to the extent that the country's growth is also dependent on urbanization, or urbanization will be a consequence of it. Urban congestion is an important aspect to deal with, and any amount of investment that can go into cutting back urban congestion is a welcome move. So, to that extent, I think metros are very good. Um, Now, when you say they are not financially viable, what do we mean by that? See, if you're going, I mean, any project has three cash flows. I mean, one is the investment, the other is the costs of operation, and the third is the revenue. Now, of course, a profitable venture, one would like revenues to be sufficiently above costs so that the surplus pays also for the return on the capital. But this is a public investment. There are a huge number of externalities as a consequence of a metro project. And therefore, when we say financial viability, what do we mean? Is it for example, how would I define the revenues, or the benefits that accrue due to a project? If it's only the ticket fare box and a bit of the direct non-fare box licensing, or revenue sharing, or whatever arrangements they have that are feeding into the project, I don't know. It may or may not be financially viable, because I'm not even sure that is the right measure to assess the viability of these projects.
Maybe fare box revenue in most operational networks right now is very low. I mean, and across the world, metro projects are not really making profit. But now that we are expanding the metro network, one important thing that we expect is good ridership. That people to leave their cars, switch to metro, and use it. But what we see in almost all operational networks is that the ridership is very low. So Aswati, how do you see this? What are the reasons for low ridership?
Thanks, Risha, for the question. And I'd like to really sort of, add from where the respected professor left off, where, he spoke about two very key important points. One was about urban congestion, and which is what, you also asked in the second question, that yes, urban congestion is something that we really want to reduce through the construction of these metro networks. But if people are not shifting to the metros, then how are we actually reducing this congestion? And considering that this is a public investment of such a high scale, being able to allow maximum number of commuters to experience the high quality of the metro ride, I think would be very critical. what you've said is very true. We've studied various metro systems, and in terms of ridership, in most of the cases, the ridership is abnormally low. Of course, in terms of metro cities such as Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, the ridership is much on the higher, is at least on the slightly on the higher side. But when it comes to tier 2 cities, like if you look at Kanpur, Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, Nagpur, etc., then the ridership is extremely low. It can be as low as even 10%. Largely, maybe less than 40% is what we would say. So, for us to be able to tackle the issue of urban congestion, I would say that there are three important pieces that we've been seeing. There has been a high level of growth of dependence on private vehicles in all of our cities. Many of them are shifting to two-wheelers and four-wheelers, and we might ask why. Now, the a metro journey doesn't start at the station of the metro station and end at a station. It starts from a home and ends at our destination. Unfortunately, while the metro system itself can offer us a high quality experience, the experience of reaching the metro station and the experience of reaching the destination, because of the low or the poor multimodal integration that we have currently, it's it has ways in which it can improve. So while we focus on building the metro system, the need to look at multimodal integration is extremely critical, and that, I think, is a very large missing gap. Secondly, I would also like to highlight that as we travel, like I use the metro quite often, and the reason why I use it is because of the time saving that I have. I do have access to four-wheeler, but I still prefer it because of the time saving. We're also noticing in multiple cities that along with the metro system, there are flyovers constructed on exactly the same corridor. Then what is it that is going to encourage a commuter to prevent using their two-wheeler? Because we've now reduced congestion on the road that he or she was using. You've added an extra layer. So people then might continue to use their two-wheeler or four-wheeler without shifting to the metro station as well. So, or using the metro service. So these, I feel, are potentially very high reasons. Of course, there could be other reasons in terms of, route alignment not being on high demand corridors, or the cost of the fares itself not being accessible to large parts of our society, because we have a lot of economically weaker sections as well. But I feel that these two pieces, really poor multimodal integration, and two, having infrastructure that is contradictory to a sustainable mode like metro, are two pieces which are very critical in this journey.
So why is it that we are not really, before metro projects are sanctioned, there is a comprehensive mobility plan that has to be prepared by the city. Then, do you think that cities are not really planning the infrastructure? Say they don't have a vision for, say, next 10 years, how they plan to provide for transportation in a city? Raghuram sir, do you think we are missing on planning part here?
Yeah. So let me again now, when you say ridership is low,
Hmm.
we need to be a little more disaggregate than a statement like that.
Okay.
I think, my own sense, even in tier 2 cities, that during peak hours, with a 3-coach train, of course, most of them right now are running 3-coach services.
Hmm.
There are times when we don't have sitting space. So, but that's during peak hours. So, if we really analyze, whatever is implied by low ridership, um, that's an average number. Okay, total
Yes.
passenger kilometers divided by maybe the seat kilometers that is made available. Now, seat kilometers, you see, end to end in a route. So usually there is end zone occupancy is low, because people are, as you start from a terminal, people are getting on, and as you get closer to the other terminal, people are getting off. So I'm not sure any system in the world has high end zone occupancies. Then off peak occupancy. So these are so this is in terms of the measure itself. But having said that, I completely agree that the true journey is not really metro station to metro station, but with a bit of whatever walk or another mode and at both ends. And
Hmm.
how is that being recognized and planned for? So the comprehensive mobility plan. So I'm not sure that in many of the cities that such plans are really done with the required level of thought that is important, because sometimes they want to push projects through. So take Ahmedabad as an example, where I have used the
Hmm.
metro quite a bit. Ahmedabad is one where during peak periods it will be very difficult to get sitting space in the
Hmm.
in that 3-coach train.
Hmm.
So there is an alignment issue possibly. Then there is a network issue. We have just begun in many of these cities. Either there is a single alignment, or at best there is a cross, like Ahmedabad, or
Hmm.
maybe Pune. You need a network. I mean, like Delhi. Hopefully Bangalore will soon. A lot of construction has happened. Things have to, they have to inaugurate it now. So you need a network. Then the connectivity. Now, again, coming to Ahmedabad, a
Hmm.
very high level of two-wheeler ownership usage here. In the simple surveys by local media, whatever, the top reason, where do I park my two-wheeler? I'm happy to use the metro. I would like to use my two-wheeler, a kilometer, 2 kilometers, whatever, up to the nearest metro. And maybe at the other end, if they are going work, they don't mind the walk, or they might take an auto, whatever it is. So parking in the intermodal connectivity, I think, is an issue that is shortchanged. Now, many metros, when you ask them, they say, yes, we have parking. Okay, out of 30 stations, they may have parking in 6 stations or 8 stations where some land was available. I would actually recommend that in a metro, for every station, a station is not complete unless it is designed with parking. You have to make an assessment of how many people are likely to come and park there, and that space has to be provided. If required, the station design should have a mezzanine level where maybe
Hmm.
parking can be provided, right through. You have to raise the pillars a bit, meaning it has to be done in the best possible way, because sometimes land availability is an issue. But you there is no concept of a station. Like, you can't have a station without platforms for people to board. So you no question of having a station unless you have parking. And actually, in cities like Ahmedabad, it's relatively easier because you're going to get a higher share of two-wheelers. Of
Hmm.
course, four-wheelers are also on the rise. So I think parking is important. Secondly, okay, see, Ahmedabad, all stations have two exit points, or 2 points to go up. Some concept of optimizing costs, one of them is kept locked. So, a longish platform, people may be coming, walking from different points. You are forcing them to go to, your concept should be, hey, passenger, come on, use me. And you've made two staircases, two escalator sets, but you're only opening one. Why? Maybe because an extra security person is required, or maybe for the maintenance, the cleaning has to be done there. But the I think it just goes against the concept. It's like they're saying, let traffic build up, then I'll open the second one.
Yeah.
Actually, it should go the other way. You have to start reaching out to people to use it. So, it all speaks of a mindset.
Hmm.
Then when you get off, you must have well designed auto lanes, so that you just come down the staircase, and there should be a line of auto rickshaws that you just board and move on to wherever you have to move. So these are important points, not enough thought. Then, of course, walking. See, people would be willing to walk. It's not that half a kilometer radius or whatever, 1 kilometer, why not 1.5 kilometers? If your walking egress and access to important points near the station are well designed
Hmm.
and provided for, I think, people would be also willing to walk. I also mentioned, there are kind of stations. For example, I use it to go to Kalupur. That's the railway station in Ahmedabad.
Okay.
And getting down, of course, I can use an elevator, but somewhere again, this mindset of optimization, we provide escalators for going up. I think first of all, I would simply say in every station, provide escalators for going up and coming down. There are senior citizens and they would prefer, not to have to use a staircase. You do have elevators, but it's kind of difficult often to figure out where an elevator is. And so,
Hmm.
and then other things, the security bench. If
Hmm.
I'm carrying a suitcase to go to the station, I mean, to lift it onto the security bench to pass it through. Why can't we have a belt that goes from ground level and increases its small things that need a lot of thought, understanding what exactly is will get the user to feel comfortable using the metro, and that level of thought is extremely important. I think if we generate that mindset,
Hmm.
I think ridership can increase. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, there are larger issues of location policies. I
Hmm.
personally think a metro can also be a driver of development. I can give you the best example is again Ahmedabad, the section
Hmm.
into Gandhinagar. At one time, the original planning was also into Gandhinagar. Then,
Hmm.
one of the intermediate DPRs, they said, no, the development to Gandhinagar, etc., not yet happened. We will not get enough ridership. So let's not go all the way to Gandhinagar. Now, at some point, again, the DPR changed. Maybe there were right from the top, nothing doing. Gandhinagar, Mahatma Gandhi Center, Gift City have to be connected. And well, the connection has happened. Now you can see the kind of development. So, two benefits actually came out of putting the corridor in a section where there wasn't already enough built up or commercial space. One, your construction went faster. You see the number of permissions, the ability to bring cranes and not have to navigate your way through legacy traffic. So construction was much easier, and the rate at which the line got built to Gift City was much faster than my usual. Like at Bangalore, I have seen how the line in front of IIM-Bangalore has been
Hmm.
plotted bit by bit because of the traffic congestion that makes construction difficult. The second benefit is, I mean, not only construction goes faster, now the development. Just in the last year, knowing that metro is a reality, the amount of residential and commercial buildings that have started coming up on the Gandhinagar route is just amazing to be, seen there. And institutions, which the universities. And so I think development. So you take a 5-year perspective post metro, and then
Hmm.
let's talk of ridership, because I think these are all public infrastructure, and we've got to have broader frameworks in
Hmm.
how we assess their viability.
And a lot of people who travel by bus also, uh, they don't take the metro, though, even if it's convenient, because of high fare. So do you feel that reduction in fare will help in increasing
So
ridership?
yeah, so Risha, so definitely there is a huge section of our society who are unable to access the metro because of the fares. If we're
Hmm.
able to ensure that we can provide some sort of structured concessions for the economically weaker sections, definitely there would be an increase in ridership from that sector. Having said that, like Sir said, fine, and they are the ones who are using these services because they don't have choices. In some of our cities, where there is a robust public transport system, in the case of a bus system, for example, in Chennai, we have a metro system and a bus system, and the ridership on the bus system is massively higher than the metro system. Like Sir said, the thing is, metro doesn't have a full network, but the bus does have a robust network, which has been developed over the years. But also the fares being significantly lower helps or attracts especially more from the economically weaker sections to use these modes. This is I mean, I definitely think that this would be a great way to get people onto the system, and we've seen this even when sometimes metro systems do like free rides on certain days, and you see that suddenly the ridership kind of increases. So the ridership, and once people taste the benefit of the system, they might be encouraged to stay using the system. Having said that, I once again want to reinforce the system that Professor had mentioned about comfort and convenience, and all the things that he said, ensuring that I feel that it needs to be mandatory to ensure that all these metro stations have safe, comfortable, convenient walking networks to access the system, and similarly interconnections to other modes of transportation, like the way Sir said, in terms of whether it's an auto rickshaw connectivity, or mini buses, or the public transport, and sort of plan this service in a very integrated manner. I think that is absolutely essential as well. And when I say integration, I don't necessarily mean only the physical integration. While physical integration is critical and maybe could be the first step, even things like information integration. Like, I don't know if I'm getting out of, and if my plan is to get out of the metro station and use the bus, and if there's a public transport bus stop exactly opposite my metro station as well, I don't know if when my next bus is coming, or I don't even know when my next metro is coming right when I am down. So having that information integration, and even being able to plan our services of the public transport and the metro seamlessly in that sense, can go a long way, including the use of, like, for example, to give some, and there are cities that are testing these and getting them well as well. Kerala right now, and Kochi has this great example of the Vitala Mobility Hub, where they have water metro, where they have the metro system, they have the bus, they have even private buses, all of them which are interconnected. There's also the Kochi One card, which you can just use one card to pay between all of these different services. All this improves the comfort and convenience of our commuters, which I think is very critical. And finally, the comfort and convenience comes, like the way I said, with the comparison of what is uncomfortable. And that's where I think that at least on the routes where there are metros planned, there should potentially be a ban on flyovers being constructed, because then you're making it more comfortable for people to use the two-wheeler or the four-wheeler. How will they shift to the metro? Where is the comfort or the convenience coming in? And last, I feel that one of the big challenges, and I think Professor might have some good, he might be able to share some more. But then I do think that the ability for our departments to work together. So the metro, I feel, succeeds very well in areas which are entirely under their jurisdiction. Planning the network of walking requires them to engage with the urban local body. Planning a seamless integration with the bus requires them to engage with the transport authority in that particular. So when our departments need to engage with one another and come up with a unified plan that they need to implement, that's where I feel like we kind of miss the mark. We miss the opportunity to provide a high quality service. By themselves, they might be doing great things, but then coming together to do something bigger than what individually we can do, somehow I feel like, in my experience, that's the place where I think a lot can improve.
Sir, would you like to add?
Yeah.
Do you think what Aswathy suggested, that flyovers, there should be a ban on construction of flyovers or improvement of road network where metro corridors have come. Do you agree with that?
No, I do not agree with that. I mean, I agree with many things that she has said about integrated planning, and the whole idea of UMTA is there, and we've. I'm not sure what are the structural and other bureaucratic political constraints that and in some of the cities where even UMTA has been set up, I don't think they're really functioning in the way they have to. All the bodies have to come together, the urban transport. Anyway, but coming back to the first issue, which I don't agree with, and that is, I think, to me, our cities, the growth in our cities are going to be such, and our implementation cycles and all are, kind of long, that I think any opportunity to increase infrastructure, whether it is competing or not, I think we must give it to the citizen, give choice to the citizen. I think that's perfectly okay. Given that there is a high quality road in parallel, I think we have to see how metros should get the ridership, because naturally people will, if the metro is convenient, I do not want to drive. Now, I like to take trains out of Ahmedabad, and uh, now I take the metro. I'm very comfortable taking the metro. It's about an 8-minute walk from home. I do it. And then, at Kalupur side, it's not as convenient, but I think in the future, in an integrated station, hopefully it will become more convenient. But still, I prefer that, rather than other. So it's important how we make the metro more convenient. And I think this is where really understanding the user and what are all the steps that a user goes through. And I gave examples in my earlier response. So that is very important. And see, we have to do market surveys. See, if people have to take ownership of the metro, the senior management, and they have to watch. In fact, they should ride the metro. Sitting in the office, if one were the MD, get all your level 2 and level 3 officers, make sure that they ride the metro at least a certain number of times every week or whatever, and and share the experience and talk to people. Why is somebody riding a metro? Of course, I also want to know why somebody is not riding a metro, but can I know why is somebody riding a metro? What made them switch from whatever mode they were using? What value did they see? And that would give you a good starting reference. And of course we should do surveys consistently to figure out. So that's why I also worry low ridership and all. To me, they
It doesn't
they,
bother you.
we really got to get to a very, very aggregate level and understand our customer fully. So that's important. But at an overall level, I think metro is a good way to go for Indian cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what I asked Aswathy also about the fare reduction in fare. Do you think
Yes,
that is something that
absolutely.
metro should
So
consider?
that's a natural. So peak hours I won't touch maybe, but off peak, to increase ridership, I think we need, we could call it a discount, so that when the ridership increases, I don't people don't start thinking of it as an entitlement. So at some point, I should be able to gradually again increase depending on how the ridership increases. But I think we've got to understand what is peak, off peak, and I think with all the electronics and all, or the digital, it should be very easy to program all this, and we should give discounts during off peak and increase ridership. I
Okay.
think the elasticity of ridership
Hmm.
would be such that when you give discounts, it will increase the ridership enough that the total revenue will go up. So the number of users multiplied by the discounted rate would be higher than the riders multiplied by the non-discounted rate, at least during off-peak.
Okay.
And we should take advantage of that.
Okay. Something that Aswathy mentioned a little while ago about the increase in sale of two-wheelers and cars. And cities where metro network has been sanctioned or has come up, do you feel now cities really need to relook at the policy, at the policy level, make some changes so that either we put a curb on sale of cars? Do you think that is feasible, and it's a that should be done? So if you could answer this, like, do we need a policy change?
I think we are, you see, what is development in a country? You also want people's aspirations to be fulfilled, right? So I think, see, we are not like Singapore or New York or Chicago, or where the level of development and aspirations that have been fulfilled, at least as far as personal mobility is concerned. So we are still at the aspirational level, and I personally think we should allow that. But we could charge, I mean, there could be a, rather than bans, there could be a higher charge for urban usage, especially where metros have come in.
Mm-hmm.
I think there can be a charge of on vehicle ownership. Ideally, it should be on usership, because many times, people are also happy to own. See, because there is a status value, there is a certain personal sense of fulfillment.
Hmm.
But usership, you have to make people think every time they want to take a trip, hey,
Hmm.
can I use the public transport rather than use my vehicle?
Hmm.
I think that we need to get to that level.
Hmm.
And only when it's a real social use with family, where they, or they want to go a little into the suburbs, or maybe then I
Hmm.
use my car.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there is a lot can be done in these by understanding how
Hmm.
travel decisions are made
Mm-hmm.
by different segments. I mean, the whole idea of market segmentation, we've got to segment people depending on their use, what makes them travel.
Okay, so do you feel that we need to relook at our policy when it comes to demand management? Uh, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Risha. So, I mean, having heard my conversation so far, you might know that, so I am, so
Yeah.
my personal view is that along with the provision of the good, we also need to look at ways in which we can control what might have some negative impacts in not just, our generation, but also for the generations to come, to ensure that we're sustainable. With respect to, like the way Professor mentioned, people, if they do feel like owning a vehicle, that is their choice. And I do think that I agree that we can give them the choice of ownership. But there are many ways in which we can, as cities, can control the use of these vehicles through modes like like parking management systems. We can ensure that, especially in congested parts of our city, have high costs of parking, so that people are encouraged to use other modes. And we already see this happening. Sometimes when we're going to the old towns of the old city areas in our own cities, whether it's in Ahmedabad, going to the
Hmm.
old city, or in Chennai going to the fort, we know that it's so congested. Then we ourselves say, oh, it's so congested, let's use some other mode, let's not use our private vehicles. So if we
Hmm.
can create that in the other congested areas through for example, parking management measures. Two, we could also look at, for example, low emission zones, where,
Hmm.
in certain areas, for the amount of vehicle usage that you have, especially if you're using a polluting vehicle, there could be charges for those. Now, all of this would require a robust IT backbone, and we will need to see how can we have such systems in place so that our cities are able to implement these well. And Risha, I think our policies already speak of ensuring that there is really good multimodal integration for the metros. Like you said, the metro policy also mandates the requirement of a CMP. So one is the need for policy, but two is also the implementation of these policies. Like sir said, UMTAs are mandated, but which cities have a functional, truly successful UMTA that's been able to bring all these together. So yes, need for improving policies, especially with the focus on travel demand management. But two, how do we make sure that we're actually implementing the measures that are suggested in our existing policies in ways that our metro users feel very comfortable, safe, and convenient to use the metro, and people smile when they're using the metro and don't shirk.
Okay, thank you so much.